Once upon a time, a young Nick stumbled upon his old neighbor Mark playing a strange game. He recognized Donald and Goofy, but he had no idea who was the spiky-haired dude fighting with the giant key. This was his first exposure he had to the game Kingdom Hearts, specifically Kingdom Hearts 2. Seeing how engrossed Mark was in the game, Nick waited and watched for a while. It looked like fun, but he never knew what the game was called. That memory was ingrained deep and never resurfaced until college, until he saw his good buddy Mike playing the exact same game, Kingdom Hearts 2. This time though, it was met with Matt calling it a kid's game and saying it was easy. After a couple failed attempts at the Hades boss fight, Matt admitted it was harder than he imagined. I would consider around this time that this was when Mike started converting us to the light. Welcome to a game dynasty known for having the charm of Disney characters, the complex story of Final Fantasy, and addictive, strategic hack-and-slash combat. While on the surface this doesn't make much sense, it has spanned multiple home consoles and handheld systems. The original Kingdom Hearts was developed by Square Enix and released in 2002 for the PlayStation 2, with Tetsuya Nomura serving as game director. 10 years later, Square Enix released another Kingdom Hearts game, this one originally exclusive for the 3DS. There have released multiple games in the series during those 10 years, but those are not the focus of the review. I'm going to focus on the first Kingdom Hearts game I've played, and that is Dream Drop Distance. Recently I picked this game up again, and I forgot how much fun it was. It might have a pretty significant difficulty spike at the end of the game to me, but it still kept me thinking about that game ever since then. Let's start with the story. To preface this section, I will say that describing this story as complex is an understatement. If you miss a single entry in the game series, you will likely be pretty lost in the next installment. Therefore, I can't say I was lost when playing Dream Drop Distance, I was way beyond that. Imagine me stuck in a forest, at night, no electronic devices, after being dropped out of a plane blindfolded. That was me going into this story initially. Since then, I've played multiple Kingdom Hearts games to have a foundation, but I do not suggest playing this as your first Kingdom Hearts game. Like most of my reviews, I'll leave out the major spoilers. Anticipating the return of the Darkness and Master Xehanort, Master Yen Sid plans for Sora and Riku to take the Mark of Mastery exam. In the exam, they are sent to the worlds restored at the end of Kingdom Hearts, but are in a sleeping state. These sleeping worlds are full of Dream Eaters. Sora and Riku are tasked with awakening the sleeping worlds by unlocking the 7 keyholes of sleep. With members of the organization showing up in a couple of these worlds, not everything goes as planned. I apologize for leaving you there, but most of the rest of the story to me is a major spoiler. Now let's talk about the battle mechanics. If you played Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep, the combat system will feel very natural, as it doesn't change much between the two games. Most of the combat in the game can be described as hack and slash, but I guarantee you that it does not work for the whole game. In the original Kingdom Hearts, you can get through the main game by summoning Tinkerbell to heal you, maybe having some protection, and charging into the enemy. But Dream Drop is different. This newer style of combat that the Kingdom Hearts series has implemented for some of the recent games in the series has a command deck and no MP. Instead of MP, the command deck utilizes a timer that only allows you to use the attack after a certain time has passed. After that command is used, it is switched to the next available command. I adore this transition to the different style of commands. Though I do say I like Birth by Sleep's better because it has the shot lock commands and the dimension link systems as well. Even though it only saves a little time when compared to Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2, I believe that this battle system keeps you focused on the action more than having to look away and see which command is available to use next. After getting used to my command deck, I would have a good idea of which command I was going to use next without having to look and see if it is available. A new addition to this battle system is the reality shift and flow motion combat. Depending on the sleeping world Sora and Riku are in, purple arrows will sometimes appear in the touchscreen during combat. Sliding down on the touchscreen then will give you a new form of attack and/or movement option. Each world will give a different option, and some are actually required as finishers for boss fights. Flow motion combat can be activated by using the Y button and running into a pole, wall, enemy, etc. The regular attack command will then be switched to a flow motion attack. With this kind of attack, Sora and Riku can damage multiple enemies in the vicinity. You can blow off an enemy to focus on others, attack in a circular pattern, etc. I used this a lot in my first playthrough of the game, but not much in my second. In the original Kingdom Hearts, you are paired with Donald and Goofy as you travel to the different worlds. In Dream Drop Distance, you have partners, but it is way different. The main enemies that you face throughout the game are called Dream Eaters. These monsters will appear on the world just like Heartless and Unversed. Defeating Dream Eaters will sometimes lead to fragments or fancies appearing, like money or health orbs, which can create your own Dream Eaters to fight alongside you. These things might be a little scary fighting, mainly in the late game, but they make adorable partners. The first one you make is basically a lovable dog that just rolls back and forth. In addition to creating these spirits to fight alongside Sora and Riku, they can be linked to give them an increase in attack power, range, or unleash a specialty attack. The game allows for a couple of spirits to fight alongside you, but my favorite part is where you can link both of them and show off a devastating group attack. The already fun battle system gets even better when adding this partner mechanic. Another cool part about this game is that they actually make use of the AR camera on the 3DS. The spirits can wander back and forth wherever the camera is facing, and you can take pictures of them on your door, desk, etc. I didn't really utilize this feature, but it was a really nice addition. This is the most controversial part of the whole game, and that is the drop mechanic. Due to sleep being an important theme, there's a timer that is shown next to your health bar that tells you when Sora or Riku will drop and switch between the two. You can choose to drop whenever on the pause menu, but there aren't many ways to extend that meter. I did use a couple, but they weren't very helpful in my opinion. This means almost whenever or wherever you are, exploring, horde fights, etc., you will suddenly switch the other character against your will. The worst part of this mechanic is when this happens in boss fights. Throughout most of the game, Sora and Riku will be progressing similarly, meaning they will encounter boss fights around the same time. However, if your drop meter finishes during a boss fight, then you have to start the fight all over again, with the boss at full health. This is the most frustrating part. I don't mind the drop mechanic overall. I thought it was an interesting addition to the game. It got annoying at times, but it wasn't too crazy. Then, I was at a quarter of a health bar before finishing the Tron boss on Sora's side, and I dropped. Can they not just pause the drop timer for the boss fights? They do it for cutscenes, but I don't understand why they wouldn't do it for boss fights too. Kingdom Hearts is a game series that will punish you badly for being greedy when fighting harder enemies. Because of this, I tend to approach boss fights carefully to try to figure out their attack patterns so I don't die in 2 hits. But with a drop mechanic, you're on a timer. To fix this, I just dropped right before a boss fight to allow myself the maximum time to fight the boss. This mostly fixes the issue, but it becomes annoying to have to do this before every boss. Remember, this isn't necessary to do before boss fights, but I found it helpful. Kingdom Hearts soundtracks are some of the most powerful soundtracks that I've ever listened to. Listening to the menu theme for these games actually gives me a sense that time slows down. If you haven't already heard Mike, Travis, and I rave about the original Kingdom Hearts soundtrack, it's basically perfect. The ones to thank for this game specifically is Yoko Shimomura, Tsuyoshi Sakedo, and Takaharu Ishimoto. What they did to this soundtrack is fantastic. From the quiet serenity of Traverse Town to the eeriness of the grid, each of these pieces of music paint the picture of a sleeping world while giving a sense of exploration and freedom. While the ambience for each of these worlds is portrayed well, the action sequences were just as good. One of my favorite parts of the game's music is how pumped it got me for the boss fights. Most of them had a quick cutscene leading to battle, but the music made my mind switch immediately to, let's kick some ass. It's a huge rarity for me to find a game that can do both, but Dream Drop Distance did. This soundtrack just adds to the crazy high expectations that I hold Kingdom Hearts games to. Now I want to talk about some of my favorite parts in the game. The first one is the Tron world. Just the whole Tron world. I've never watched the movie, I was never interested in watching the movie. When I first saw the trailer, it looked pretty dumb to me. The grid was one of the first worlds to really make me say, wow. this looks amazing. Everything about it intrigued me. It's a world that I never thought I would see in a Kingdom Hearts game. The first thing you do as Riku is basically kick ass in a light bike game. The atmosphere was incredible, and the music for the stage perfectly mixed feelings of an eerie futuristic world. Immersion is an understatement when I was exploring the grid. I probably would have loved it more if I watched the movie, but I'm still left wanting more after the second time I finished the stage. The ending of the game. When I arrived at the final world, I swear I couldn't put the game down. The last set of bosses and cutscenes had me hooked. I didn't know what was happening for the most of the scenes, because remember, it wasn't my first Kingdom Hearts game, but I was all in, baby. I did the grind to beat the bosses, and then I was met with one of my new favorite video game antagonists, Master Xehanort. I don't know what it is, but I am really intrigued about Xehanort and the Organization 13. While the ending was very satisfying, it still left me excited for what comes next in Kingdom Hearts 3. Please be good. As with almost every Kingdom Hearts game I play, some worlds didn't appeal to me as much as others. I liked every individual story for the worlds in the game, but certain worlds felt bland. Don't get me wrong, they were all fun, but when you have multiple worlds in the game, some are bound to stick out more than others. This was mainly with La Cité des Cloches, if I'm pronouncing that right. I liked the story of the Hunchback of Notre Dame and the incorporation of Sora and Riku, but it just didn't have me feeling as excited as the other worlds. The other critique that I have is the difficulty spike at the end of the game. I've played this game twice, once on standard and once on proud mode. Throughout much of the game, I didn't have to do any level grinding to get where I was comfortable to fight the bosses or progress through the world. For the land that never was, I had to do a bit for both of my playthroughs. It wasn't major, but I did want to mention it here. In conclusion, I absolutely adore this game. It was fun the first time I played it, but even better the second time. I hear people call Kingdom Hearts dialogue cheesy, and I agree for the most part. But in that dialogue, I feel that there's important reminders that we all need for our lives. There are times where you aren't the first pick, but that doesn't mean you can't do your best. Sometimes we can't do it by ourselves, and we need a friend to help carry the burden. All for one, and one for all. I feel like these messages are universal in nature and are very important to remember. Each time I play a Kingdom Hearts game, I learn something different from the characters, whether it's Aqua, Terra, Sora, Riku, Axel, etc. Instead of saying you're too old, listen to their message. You'll be surprised at which phrases stick out to you particularly. Whatever opinion you have on this game, I think it's a great installment to the series. While the drop mechanic can be frustrating, it does not take away from the experience. If you want to start loving this game franchise like me and Travis, I don't think this should be your first one. I think it would be better for you to start from the beginning with the 1.5 2.5 remix pack and play Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2 before this. You will be a lot less lost than I was and enjoy the story more. Especially with Kingdom Hearts 3 coming this year, now's the time. It's a game enjoyable from start to finish.